Okay, so you know that feeling, right? Like you're bombarded with all this advice, you're trying to level up.
Yeah.
But it's just so much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Right.
How do you actually like distill it down to the good stuff without getting totally overwhelmed?
Well, that's exactly what we're all about here today. We are cutting through the noise and focusing on.
Yeah, like focusing on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that really quietly shapes success in literally every area of your life.
Totally. And we're talking about something that you probably have heard of before.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth a deep dive because it is so foundational.
Absolutely.
And that is the compound effect.
Yes.
So we're diving deep into Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect.
Great book.
And I love that, that this is not just some random self-help guru. Like Darren Hardy is the publisher of Success Magazine. So
He's in the trenches.
he's been in the trenches
Exactly.
for years studying like what actually works.
He's seen it all.
He's seen it all.
And he's distilled it down to these core principles that are surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful. And, one of the coolest things is like even Anthony Robbins,
Oh, yeah.
who's someone who's like helped millions of people create massive change.
Right.
He even emphasizes in the book, in his little message, that lasting results aren't about one-time breakthroughs. It's about
consistency.
It's about consistency.
It's about those fundamentals applied over and over and over again,
right.
building a system for achievement.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to get into today. So we are,
Love it.
for this deep dive, we're going straight to the source.
Yeah.
We are using Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect.
Awesome.
And our mission for you listening is to help you really understand how to apply these principles.
Yeah.
So, this isn't just theory. This is about extracting the essential elements of this framework.
Love it.
So you can actually see the compound effect working for you.
Okay, so let's get to the core idea here. The compound effect is basically this. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference.
It sounds so simple.
Right. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
But that's really the magic of it.
And I love how he uses this illustration in the book to really drive this point home, which is the magic penny analogy.
Yeah.
So imagine you're offered a choice, right?
Okay.
$3 million right now, lump sum payment,
Okay.
or a single penny
Okay.
that doubles in value every day for 31 days.
Right. So I've got my 3 million or my penny.
Which one are you going for?
3 million.
Yeah, right. Like most people are going to go
Of course.
for the immediate gratification.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense, right? Because you think, okay, day 5, your friend who took the penny option has like 16 cents.
Yeah, you're thinking they're crazy.
You're thinking they're an idiot,
Right.
and you're sitting on $3 million.
I'm going to the Bahamas.
Yeah, exactly. Even after 10 days, they only have $5.12.
Yeah, you're still feeling good
Right.
about that decision.
So, and even like after 20 days,
Oh, wow.
with only 11 days left, that magic penny has only grown to about $5,200.
Still nothing to write home about.
You're still like living large with your $3 million. It just seems like the penny was a terrible choice.
Right. You almost feel bad for them at this point.
Yeah.
For your friend.
But here's where things get really interesting, because the invisible force of compounding out starts to take hold.
It sneaks up on you.
It does.
Those little tiny doublings, every single day they start to build up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, boom, it just explodes.
Yeah. So by day 31, that penny, it's not just a few $1,000s, it's over $10 million.
It's crazy. Yeah, $10,737,418.24.
More than 3 times the initial $3 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that consistency.
Yeah.
It's not about the amount. It's about doing it day after day after day.
Yeah. And the book even highlights that, like, the real turning point comes, like, surprisingly late in the process.
Yeah.
It's not until, like, day 29 that the penny starts to, like, really catch up.
Yeah.
And then day 30, it surpasses the 3 million mark.
And then that final push.
And then the last day, boom, it just goes crazy.
Yeah, it's like a hockey stick.
Yeah, it really drives home the point that it's about consistency over time.
Absolutely. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency.
Okay, so how does this apply to, like, our everyday lives, right?
Yeah, because we're not all dealing with millions of dollars and pennies doubling.
Right.
Right. But this principle applies to literally everything.
Yeah.
So the book gives this example of these 3 friends,
Yeah.
Larry, Scott, and Brad.
Okay.
They all kind of live similar lives.
Okay.
They make about the same money.
Okay.
They're in average health.
Okay.
So Larry, he pretty much stays the same throughout this whole experiment.
Okay, so he's kind of our control group.
He's the control group.
Okay.
All right. Then we have Scott. Scott makes some small positive changes.
Okay.
Okay, so he commits to reading 10 pages of a good book every day.
Okay.
He listens to 30 minutes of something instructional,
Okay.
like maybe an audiobook
Okay.
or a podcast on his commute.
Okay.
He cuts about 125 calories from his diet.
Okay.
Maybe he skips that sugary drink.
Okay.
Or he switches to a lighter condiment
Okay.
and he tries to walk a little bit more.
Okay.
Maybe less than a mile extra per day.
So really small.
Tiny changes,
Okay.
right? Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Then we have Brad,
Okay.
right? Brad's our other friend.
Okay.
And he's making small but negative choices.
Okay, so he's going the opposite direction.
He's going the opposite direction.
Okay.
Okay, so he starts watching an extra hour of TV every night,
Okay.
and he has one unhealthy snack every day.
Okay, so like a bag of chips or something?
Yeah, a bag of chips, a donut,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Again, nothing that seems like a big deal in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So the book follows these guys for 31 months.
Okay.
What happens?
So let's start with Scott.
Yeah, what happens to Scott with those small positive changes?
Yeah.
Okay, after 31 months, Scott has lost weight. He's got way more energy.
Oh, wow.
And even his relationships are better.
And this is just from those tiny little things.
Exactly. It's the positive compound effect in action.
Yeah.
It's affecting every area of his life.
That's incredible.
So what about Brad?
Yeah. What happens to Brad with those small negative choices?
Okay, well, Brad has gained weight.
Oh,
He's got less energy.
okay.
And those extra TV hours and the snacks have kind of created this negative spiral.
Okay.
He's less likely to want to go out with his wife or his partner.
Oh.
So there's tension in the relationship.
I see.
He's more irritable because he's tired.
Right.
He's less affectionate.
Wow.
It's just this downward spiral that all started with these tiny, seemingly insignificant bad habits.
And they just compound over time.
They add up.
So it's like, it really is about like what you're doing on a daily basis consistently that ultimately shapes.
It's the little things. It's
Yeah.
not the big dramatic things.
Yeah. And I think that that really resonates when we start talking about the myth of overnight success.
Yes. This is a big one,
Right.
right?
Because we're bombarded with this messaging constantly.
All the time.
Lose weight fast.
Get rich quick.
Learn a new language in like 3 weeks. It's
Yeah.
like everywhere.
Right. It's like these marketing messages are everywhere.
Yeah.
And they've really warped our perception of what it takes to actually achieve anything worthwhile.
Yeah, I think we've almost forgotten that real success is slow. It's laborious. It takes work, discipline, commitment.
Yeah.
It's not just like this magical overnight thing.
Yeah. And Darren Hardy, he specifically cautions against falling for those infomercial promises, right?
Right.
Of instant breakthroughs.
Totally.
It just doesn't work like that.
So one of the things that I thought was so interesting in the book is that he makes this point that like you already know enough.
Yeah.
Like you probably already have most of the information you need to be successful.
Yeah, if information alone were the key to success,
Yeah.
everybody would be successful.
Right.
Everybody's got access to the internet.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's not about knowing more. It's about doing something different.
So what's the missing link then?
It's not knowledge. It's action.
Okay.
It's about having a new plan of action
Okay.
and really focusing on your behavior and your habits.
Okay.
And those need to be aligned with your goals.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels.
And he's not just like talking about this, you know, theoretically.
No.
He actually achieved some pretty incredible success.
Yeah.
By the age of 27, he was a self-made millionaire and had built a $50 million business.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And he attributes that to applying these principles.
Wow.
And I love the story about his dad
Oh,
because his dad sounds intense.
he sounds intense.
He was a former university football coach, and he instilled like a strong work ethic and discipline from a young age.
Like boot camp.
Like boot camp. 6 a.m. wake-ups to the sounds of garage workouts.
Oh, my gosh.
Chores all the time.
Yeah.
High expectations for academics.
No excuses.
No excuses.
Oh, wait.
And he even had this rule called the no showing bone rule for staying homesick.
What?
Yeah, basically you had to be like missing a limb to get out of going to school.
Wow, tough love.
Tough love, yeah.
But you know what? It built character.
Yeah, but it wasn't just about being strict. Like, he also really encouraged them to figure things out on their own and, like, celebrated their successes.
Yeah, it's about empowerment too, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because by the time he was
12 years old.
12 years old, he had a CEO-worthy schedule.
Wow.
Like, he was super organized.
Yeah.
By 18, he was making 6 figures.
That's incredible.
Owned his own home at 20 and a millionaire by 27.
So the compound effect was already in play
Yeah.
from a young age.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But the book also addresses this, like, subtle danger of complacency.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one.
Yeah, because it's like, once you've achieved a certain level of success, it's easy to ease up.
Right. You get comfortable, you take your foot off the gas.
Right.
And that's when things start to slip.
Yeah, and he uses this analogy of the frog slowly being boiled alive.
Gosh, that's a scary one.
Yeah, it is, because it's like, you slowly turn up the heat.
Yeah.
And the frog doesn't even realize it's happening.
Right.
Until it's too late.
And it's a great analogy for our lives because we can slowly get complacent without even realizing it.
Yeah, and he gives a really good real-world example of this with a restaurant that opened near his home.
Oh, yeah. What happened there?
Initially, it was amazing, like impeccable cleanliness, friendly service, great food.
Yeah, the place to be.
Yeah, and then they just kind of got complacent. Like, the hostess was indifferent, the service was inconsistent, and the food was hit or miss.
Yeah.
And within 18 months, they were out of business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like, it's a reminder that, even when you're successful, you can't just like rest on your laurels.
You got to keep pushing. You got to keep innovating. You got to keep improving.
Yeah. Okay, so this leads us to another really interesting point that he brings up, which is this microwave mentality.
Yes.
So explain, what is microwave mentality?
Okay, so microwave mentality is basically this expectation of instant results.
Yeah.
We want everything now.
Right.
We want fast food. We want instant downloads.
Yeah.
We want overnight shipping.
Yeah.
And we've kind of forgotten that anything worthwhile takes time.
Yeah. It's like this instant gratification culture.
Exactly.
And it's not realistic when it comes to like actually achieving big goals.
Right. And this kind of ties in with this whole lottery winner phenomenon.
Yeah.
We hear about the people who win big, but we don't hear about the millions of people who lose.
Right.
Right. And there's this Harvard psychologist who actually calculated that if you gave every lottery loser from a single drawing just 30 seconds on TV to announce their loss,
Wow.
it would take almost 9 years to get through them all.
Wow. That's crazy. It really puts it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
The odds are not in your favor.
the odds are not in your favor. And it's like,
Right.
you really have to think about, how you're approaching your goals.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that, small, consistent choices are powerful.
Right.
Overnight success is a myth.
Yeah.
And you probably already know enough to be successful.
You got the knowledge.
So what's the next step?
The next step is awareness.
Okay.
All right. You got to become aware of your current choices
Okay.
and your habits.
So how do we do that?
This is where the scorecard comes in.
Okay.
It's your secret weapon.
Okay.
All right. This is about tracking.
Okay.
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 You want to navigate from where you are to where you want to be.
Right.
You got to know what's steering you off course.
Okay.
Darren Hardy, he kept a money log for 30 days.
Okay.
And he thought he had a pretty good handle on his spending.
Okay.
But when he actually tracked every single dollar,
Yeah.
it was a complete game changer.
So it's about like really getting granular with it.
Super granular, yeah. Write it all down.
Okay.
And you'll be amazed at what you discover.
Okay. And so once you have that awareness,
Yeah.
then what?
Then you can start making changes.
Okay.
Right? You can identify areas where you're wasting money.
Okay.
You can start saving more.
Okay.
You can even enjoy your fun money more consciously.
Okay. I like that.
Right. It's not about deprivation. It's about awareness.
Yeah.
So he applied this to other areas of his life too.
Like what?
Eating habits, exercise routines,
Okay.
skill development,
Okay.
even relationships.
How do you track relationships?
Well, you can track the quality of your interactions.
Oh, okay.
Are you being present? Are you being supportive? Are you really connecting?
So it's about like being intentional with your interactions.
Exactly. Yeah. Treat your relationships like a valuable asset
Okay.
and monitor your progress.
I like that.
So the book recommends starting small.
Okay.
Don't try to change everything at once.
Yeah, don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, just pick one habit
Okay.
that you think is important
Okay.
and track it for a week.
Okay, just a week.
Just a week.
Yeah. That's doable.
Totally doable. And then once you've tracked it for a week, try to keep going for 3 weeks.
Okay. Why 3 weeks?
Well, that's kind of the psychological benchmark for habit formation.
Okay.
It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's a good time frame to aim for.
Okay.
And the examples in the book are really eye-opening.
Like what?
Like that daily candy bar you might grab.
Okay.
Just being aware of it and writing it down can be enough to make you think twice
Right.
And over 2 weeks, that can lead to a pound of weight loss.
Wow.
Just from that one small change.
Yeah.
And the coffee example is crazy.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, so that $4 coffee on your way to work,
Yeah.
over 3 weeks, that's like $60.
Okay.
Over a year, it's almost $1,000.
Okay.
Over 20 years, it's over $50,000.
Wow.
So suddenly that coffee doesn't seem so insignificant.
Right? It's like you're literally pouring money down the drain.
Yeah, and the book makes this really interesting point about like the future value of that money.
Okay.
So that $50 purchase today, if you invested it and it compounded over time, that could be $250 in the future.
Wow.
That you're missing out on.
Okay, so tracking is about more than just like cutting back on spending.
It's about awareness.
It's about awareness.
It's about making conscious choices.
Yeah.
It's about thinking long term.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so it's not just about eliminating negative habits.
Right.
It's also about creating positive ones.
Yeah.
And the book has some awesome stories about how small positive changes can lead to huge payoffs.
Like what?
Okay, so there's this CEO of a $100 million company.
Okay.
And he felt like there was a disconnect between him and his employees.
Oh.
So he decided to do something really simple.
What did he do?
He walked around the building 3 times a week, and he just acknowledged employees he saw doing good work.
Okay.
Just a quick hello, a thank you, a pat on the back.
Okay.
That's it.
And what happened?
It transformed the company culture.
Wow.
People felt appreciated.
Okay.
They felt seen.
Oh,
they felt motivated. And profits went up 30% in 18 months.
That's insane.
Just from that one small change.
Yeah.
And then there's the money tree story.
Oh, tell me about this.
Okay. So this woman named Kathleen.
Yeah.
She was an assistant making $40,000 a year.
Okay.
And she felt like she could never save money.
Okay.
So she decided to start small.
Okay. How small?
1% of her income.
Okay.
That's $33 a month.
Okay. That's doable.
Right.
Yeah.
So she started tracking her spending.
Okay.
And she made some small adjustments.
Like what?
She brought her lunch from home once a week.
Okay.
She optimized her cable subscription.
Okay.
You know, little things like that.
Yeah.
And she gradually increased her savings rate. And that discipline had a ripple effect.
Oh.
She started investing in her personal development.
Okay.
Her creativity blossomed.
Okay.
She started contributing valuable ideas to her company.
Okay.
And within 2 years, her income more than doubled to over $100,000.
Wow.
Eventually, she became a millionaire.
Wow. That's incredible. And it all started with $33 a month.
That's the power of the compound effect.
Yeah, and I think this highlights the importance of starting early.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, because the earlier you start,
the more time you have for that compound interest to work its magic.
Right.
So there's this example in the book about an IRA.
Yeah.
And it compares 2 friends.
Okay.
One starts investing $250 a month at age 23.
Okay.
The other starts at age 40.
Okay.
The one who starts at 23 ends up with way more money in retirement.
Even though they invested for fewer years.
Even though they invested for fewer years and less money overall.
Yeah, because they had more time for that money to compound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So time is your biggest asset.
So what if you're like me and you feel like you're starting a little bit late?
Well, you can still catch up.
Okay.
It's never too late to start.
Okay.
And there's this model that Brian Tracy talks about.
Okay.
It's called the 110 of 1% improvement.
Okay. So like a tiny little improvement?
A tiny little improvement every single workday.
Okay.
Okay. And that might seem insignificant.
Yeah.
But over time, it adds up.
Okay. How so?
Okay. So that's like 0.5% improvement each week.
Okay.
2% each month.
Okay.
26% improvement over a year.
Okay.
And over 10 years, that leads to a 1,000% increase.
Wow.
So you can make massive progress.
Yeah.
Without killing yourself.
Right. Just consistent small improvement.
Exactly.
Okay. I like that.
Okay. So to really drive home this idea that success is a marathon.
Yeah.
Not a sprint.
Yeah.
There's this awesome story about a woman named Beverly.
Okay. What's her story?
Okay. So Beverly wanted to run a half marathon, but she was significantly overweight.
Okay.
And she hadn't run before.
Okay.
So she didn't just jump into intense training.
Smart.
Yeah. She started by walking a 1-mile loop 3 times a week.
Okay.
Then she gradually started jogging.
Okay.
Just short intervals.
Okay.
And it took her 7 weeks to jog a whole mile.
Wow.
But she was consistent.
Okay.
She kept going.
Yeah.
And she increased her distance by 1/8 of a mile each time.
Okay.
And within 6 months, she was running 9 miles.
Wow.
And within 9 months, she was running more than a half marathon.
Wow.
And the cool thing is it didn't just affect her running.
Right.
She lost weight. She had more energy at work.
Okay.
She doubled her sales performance.
Wow.
Her relationships improved.
Okay.
She made new friends who were also into fitness.
Wow. That's incredible.
So it was this total transformation.
Yeah.
And it all started with those tiny little steps.
Yeah. And I think a big part of her success was that she had a strong why.
Yes. Why power is crucial.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, it's your reason for doing something.
Right.
It's what keeps you going when things get tough.
Yeah.
And the book uses this analogy of a warm, cold Easter egg hunt.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Okay, so imagine you're a kid
Okay.
and you're looking for Easter eggs,
Okay.
and your parents are giving you clues.
Okay.
Warmer when you're getting closer,
Okay.
colder when you're getting further away.
Right.
That's your why.
Okay.
It's your guiding force.
I like
It keeps you on track.
Yeah.
So every choice you make
Yeah.
should be aligned with your why.
Okay.
It should be moving you closer to your goal.
I like that a lot.
And this all ties in with our habits,
Okay.
because the book highlights that 95% of our actions are actually driven by habits.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these habits are formed unconsciously.
Right. We're not even aware of it.
We're just going through the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
So how do we break bad habits then?
Yeah. That's the big question.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Because the negative consequences often don't show up right away.
Right.
It's like that Big Mac.
Okay.
Doesn't give you a heart attack immediately.
Oh.
That cigarette doesn't age your face by 20 years overnight.
Right.
But the compound effect is still at work.
Yeah.
Those small indulgences are adding up.
Okay.
So we got to become aware of these unconscious patterns
Okay.
and start making small adjustments.
Okay. And so one of the ways to do that is to define your core values.
Yes. Core values are huge.
Why are they so important?
Well, when you know what's truly important to you,
Yeah.
it makes decision-making so much easier.
Okay.
You're less likely to get sidetracked
Right.
because your actions are aligned with your beliefs.
Yeah. So it's about creating that congruence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So less stress,
Yeah.
less conflict,
Mm.
more clarity.
Okay. I like that a lot. And you know what's really interesting is that he talks about how even negative emotions like frustration and anger can actually be channeled
Oh, yeah.
to achieve great things.
Fuel for the fire,
Yeah.
right? Like Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
He was this little dink
Yeah.
who always had to fight to prove himself.
Right.
And he used that to fuel his success.
Yeah. And Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah, he struggled with dyslexia and ADHD.
Wow.
He was labeled a problem child.
Wow.
And he used that resentment,
Yeah.
that rejection as fuel to become this incredible actor.
Yeah. It's pretty inspiring, right?
It is. It's like turning that negative energy into something positive.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads into this idea of not just setting external goals,
Right.
but also looking inward.
Yeah.
So the author shares his story about finding his wife.
Oh, tell me about that.
Okay, so he didn't just make a list of what he wanted in a partner.
Right.
He also made a list of the qualities he needed to become
Wow.
to attract that kind of person.
I like that.
So he was working on himself
Yeah.
at the same time as he was looking for a partner.
And it worked out.
And to work out, he's happily married to this amazing woman named Georgia.
That's awesome.
So it's not just about what you want.
Right.
It's about who you become.
Yeah. I like that.
All right, so let's break down the formula for achieving goals.
Okay.
Okay, so it's you
Okay.
plus choice
Okay.
plus behavior
Okay.
plus habit
Okay.
plus compounded over time
Okay.
equals goals.
So it's about making those choices
Yeah,
consistently over time
exactly.
and developing those habits.
Right.